The first name in news, the last word in talk. 610 KDAL. News Talk Sports.
Live. It stars Over the Prairie with 8-time Minnesota Music Award-winning songwriter, musician, author, and historian, Paul Metsa. Check out previous show podcasts at KDAL610.com. Now, here's Paul Metsa.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Stars Over the Prairie on the Big K. This is your host, Paul Metsa, with my wingman, Chris Allen.
Good morning.
It's kind of a foggy day, a little humid out there, but
is it fog or is it some of that lingering smoke that's been coming down?
Boy, not as bad as it was a couple of weeks ago. That is for sure.
I get those warnings through I have one of those Alexa screens.
Right.
And it gives me my weather every day and the warnings about the air. And, you're right. It was really, really bad.
Oh, yeah. Well, they said Minneapolis was the third most polluted city in the country just a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And, boy, it's amazing. Chicago's gotten really bad. But it's not as bad as it was, so that's good because I have an offer to go see the Huskies today, play a little ball in the afternoon. My buddy's got, in fact, Mike, if you're listening out there, I'm going to take you up on it. I talked to him last night. I wasn't sure, but I cleared the decks for Huskies takeoff. Hey, you're listening to Stars Over the Prairie. What do we do on Stars Over the Prairie? We talk to stars, people that used to be stars, people that want to be stars, people that have nothing to do with being stars, people that just want to walk outside and look at the stars while they're drinking a cold one. We are 237 somersaults down the street from Bob Dylan's boyhood home and a stone's throw away from Bob Dylan Way. We are broadcasting live in the Big K studio, which is right on Superior Street, which I remember coming down as a kid from the Iron Range. Man, we came down in the City of the North Parade. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
And my 13th birthday, my mom took myself and some friends down to see The Sound of Music at the North Shore Theater.
Nice.
Man, that was like going to Carnegie Hall.
I saw my dad, who didn't take us to many things when I was a kid, took us to a movie called No Deposit, No Return with Tim Conway and Don Knotts.
Really?
And we went to the North Shore and saw it.
Cool.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of great guests on today. Sherwin Linton is playing up at the Music in the Park on August 22nd. Up there in Silver Bay. Nelson French has done a great job with some beautiful music. Charlie Parr, Teen and the B-Sides, Chase and Ovation, my good friends, the New Prims, and more. And Sherwin is just an amazing classic country singer in his 80s, still playing. He's I called him this morning to set up the time for the interview. He was on his way to play in Sauk Center with his lovely wife, Pam. I'm actually doing a show with them next weekend. Moe's in Mounds View, a great Moe's American Grill, is doing an outdoor show on Saturday. They have Pam and Sherwin Linton, and then at night the great G.B. Layton Trio. My band, Cats Under the Stars, is celebrating our 50th anniversary to the day. On Sunday, where the show's from 4 to 7, the Front Porch Swinging Liquor Pigs are opening up. And we're going to have a 7-piece band for the original members. And Sonny Earl, Jimmy Anton, and Al Oikry from the Big Woo will be joining us. Say, if it's your birthday today, August 9th, you're a Leo, we'll give you a little bit of the year. We will give you a little bit of the year ahead here. Although your personality is restless, you are at your best when meeting your responsibilities and fulfilling commitments. Self-esteem plummets otherwise, so you better get that together. You're hardworking, likable, dependable, and achievement-oriented. Some of you are overachievers. You might often find yourself in the position of managing and taking care of others. Be a good caregiver there. Famous birthdays today. P.J. Travers. You have any idea who that is, Chris?
Oh.
She's Australian and British. She was born in 1899.
No, I don't.
She created Mary Poppins.
Yes.
And had a nice long life, passed away in 1996, so lived to be 97 years old. Speaking of 97-year-old birthdays, the great Boston Celtics guard Bob Cousy turns 97 years old today. Happy birthday, Bob, out there in Beantown somewhere. 13-time NBA All-Star and NBA champ for the Celtics in 1957, and then 1953, 1960, 61, 62, and 63. That is what you call a heck of a run. Whitney Houston, gone way too soon.
Yeah.
She was born in 1963 in Newark, New Jersey, passed away in 2012. Boy, could she sing.
You know, there's an interesting story that Kevin Costner uses that he pushed for her to get that part in the movie The Bodyguard.
Right.
And everybody was against him, and so he threatened to leave the movie unless she was cast. And in the end, with the way that she sang the music, and she consulted him on how to act better, and he said something you can't teach is how vulnerable she looks in the movie during certain parts. He said that's real acting.
Right. Wow. One more big birthday today, Brett Hall. I believe he married a Duluth woman.
Yes, he
and
did.
Spent some time in Duluth. He's 61 today. 8-time NHL All-Star. He had his name on 2 Stanley Cups, played for a variety of teams, including the Calgary Flames, St. Louis Blues, the Dallas Stars. I'm still mad that they stole the North Stars.
Yeah.
Don't get me, Norm Green. Don't get me started on that guy. The Detroit Red Wings and the Phoenix Coyotes. Did you ever bump into Brett when he was up here?
I did. I worked the Brett. There used to be a Brett Hull golf tournament, and I volunteered to work. I want to say hole number 7, and he came up and actually recognized my name from the radio, and he says, "My wife listens to you all the time." Really, really nice guy. I had heard some things about him, and they said, "Don't talk to him, unless he." I didn't find that at all. He was incredibly nice to me. He was incredibly nice to everybody around. Signed autographs. You got to think that I'm doing a tournament here, man. Leave me alone.
Right.
But he was gracious to everyone and signed autographs, and just couldn't have been a nicer person.
That's great to hear. Of course, I was a huge fan of his dad, Bobby Hall. I mean, I just loved that guy when I was a young, fledgling hockey player up there in the Iron Range. Hey, we've got a great guest after we speak with country singer Sherwin Linton. We have a fellow by the name of Thomas Nelson who wrote a really interesting book called Wrecked, the Edmund Fitzgerald and the Sinking of the American Economy. Is that who we have on?
Yeah, we have Tom ready to go.
Okay, well, let's talk to Tom. And my glasses aren't working today. We can't get a hold of Sherwin. He still might be on the road, but we will get to him. But do we have a little theme music to get going with? Man, who doesn't remember the opening chords to that song?
Did you know our morning news guy on KDAL was the first one to play that song in the world?
Wow.
And when Gordon Lightfoot played here, he gave him free tickets to go to the show. Dave Strandberg is who I'm talking about.
Is Dave still around?
Dave does the morning show on KDAL Monday through Friday.
Well, we've got to get David on and talk about that here soon.
He is one of my personal idols. He's one of the reasons I got into radio, and he says, don't blame him.
They were going to... They're going to be doing a big event on November 10th, the 50th anniversary.
Yeah. And I understand he's going to be part of it.
Good. Well, it's coming along. I've got some ideas. We've had Brianna on from the Richard Bong Museum, and they're part of that group over in Superior that are going to celebrate that occasion that was so affected so many people in the Northland and Duluth, Superior, and more. Anyway, we've got Thomas Nelson on, the author of Wreck. Tom, how are you today?
Great. Good to be on. Welcome from, or should I say hello from Outagamie County, Wisconsin, from the Appleton area. That's where I'm calling from.
What are you doing on the road today? You just sightseeing, or you got a project?
No. Part of my job is being a politician. I go and go on parades.
Oh, nice.
Here, yes, I'm an elected official, kind of like a county mayor, and I wrote the book on the side, kind of like a little pastime. So hobby of mine, writing books, and the Fitzgerald is my latest.
Now, before we forget, you will be reading your book tomorrow in Superior, so give us the details on that book reading.
Yeah, tomorrow in Superior afternoon, Foxes and Fireflies on Tower Avenue between 3 and 5 p.m. So that's tomorrow in Superior, and then I'll be in Spooner the following evening, Monday at 6:30. So a couple of opportunities in the North Woods and Twin Ports.
Are you a lifelong Wisconsinian?
I would say yes, except for I was born in Minnesota. I was born in St. Paul, Minnesota. Then my dad took a call as a Lutheran pastor in western Wisconsin, and so lived in Wisconsin ever since.
So what kind of politicking do you do?
Well, this is a local office, so it's a nonpartisan office, and as I said, it's kind of like a mayor for a county. In Minnesota, you have commissioners. Most counties in Wisconsin have administrators, but in a few counties, some of the larger counties, there are executives. So that's what I do for the most part.
So you're not a lineman for the county, you're a mayor for the county.
Yes, that's right.
So let's talk about. God, I love that song. So Tom, how were you old enough to remember when the Edmund Fitzgerald went down?
It went down about 6 months before I was born.
Okay.
So the answer to that is no.
Okay. So what sparked your interest in the Edmund Fitzgerald and the book called Wrecked about the sinking of the American economy? It sounds really interesting. I got the PDF. I haven't had time to go over it. So give us kind of the overview. What was your initial interest in writing this book, and give us kind of the rundown of what the book is about.
So the interest really goes back to when I was about 7 or 8 years old. I think it's a story that a lot of people who are compelled, who are attracted to the story of the sinking of the Fitzgerald. And so it happened pretty early. And all along in the back of my head, I wanted to write a book on it. And it really kind of came to me about 2 or 3 years ago, where even though there have been a lot of books written on that, there have been very few that have been published in an academic press. And so my book is one of the first, if not the first, peer-reviewed book. And so I put a lot of time into it, researched, a lot of eyeballs looked at it. And there are a lot of stories that have not been told. And my book uses the Fitzgerald to explain what happened not just on Superior in the Midwest, but across the country in the 1960s and 1970s. Mm-hmm. How our government, how corporate America let down companies, specifically let down workers. And a really good example of that we all know is the case of the Fitzgerald. A lot of people will spend time on how exactly did it sink. Was it because of the row of waves? Was it because of the hatches? What was it? Well, in my book, my argument is pretty clear. The Fitzgerald sunk because of lax government oversight, corporate malfeasance, and deferred maintenance. The ship was not seaworthy. It should not have been sailed in the first place. And so the thrust of my book is to make that argument. In addition to that argument, and again, this was peer-reviewed, so this isn't just something I threw out there. This has been evaluated several times. And, you know, it just really is kind of puzzling why it is that there's really not been much discussion at all on the state of that ship. We all revere the Fitzgerald as one of the largest ore ships to ply the Great Lakes, but the ship was not maintained. The owner, Northwestern Mutual, had a triple net lease with Ogilvy Norton, which indemnified them for anything wrong that could happen. And so even though it was theirs, it was not, wasn't well kept by the company because they didn't own it, and results show for itself. The hull was beyond damaged. It should have been replaced, and yet it was tack welded over the years. Attention was brought to Ogilvy Norton, the company, and nothing was done. And so this explains why on November 10th, you did have more than one ore ship on Lake Superior, but it was the Fitzgerald that sunk. And a big reason why is because it was ill-maintained. The American Bureau of Shipping, they looked the other way when there was clear evidence that it was not seaworthy, and corporate malfeasance. And so when you look at those factors, that sounds a lot like a lot of bad bosses around the country. And so that is the reason why the Fitzgerald sunk.
Wow. That's interesting that you talk about the two ships going out at the same time. That does sound kind of fishy because usually the boats are well spaced.
Yeah, they were. But that night, because of the weather, the Anderson and the Fitzgerald were intentionally close together. And part of the reason why is they knew it was going to be very haphazard, but there was no real legit navigation equipment back then. So the Anderson trailed the Fitzgerald, and because the storm system was coming from the west, it would hit the Anderson first. And so the Anderson was communicating to the Fitzgerald the type of weather conditions. There were no fixed stations. Both radars on the Fitzgerald had lost power, and so the Fitzgerald, for the most part, was sailing blind. And the only data that they had, the information they had, was coming from the Anderson. So that was the reason why they were close together.
Wow. Something kind of creepy, and not many people know about this, is the Arthur M. Anderson still comes in and goes out on the same day.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's another example. How is it that this was 50 years ago, and the ship that was out there that was actually older than what the Fitzgerald was? I think it was older, or at least close in age. 50 years later, that's still out there, but not the Fitzgerald.
Interesting.
Tom, we're going to keep you on. We're going to hear from some people that keep the show on the air, and then we'll be back with Thomas Nelson and talk more of this fascinating story about his book, Wrecked, the Edmund Fitzgerald and the Sinking of the American Economy.
Gray Wolf Lodge, located on gorgeous Pelican Lake in beautiful Orr, is the great getaway in northern Minnesota. Featuring affordable, modernized cabins that rent by the week or even a few days, Gray Wolf Lodge is your place to treat the family or just yourself for a relaxing time away from it all. With great fishing, yoga classes, massage, boat rentals, a sandy beach, a common gathering area with a fire pit, and the gorgeous and rustic Gray Wolf Lodge, hosts John and Carol have thought of everything for your unforgettable stay. Give them a call at 1-800-840-9653 or go to graywolflodge.com to see all that they have to offer. Gray Wolf Lodge, your home away from home in the North Woods.
I'm Sydney, and I had Z LASIK at Weiss Eye Center. Oh man, camping and like being able to look up at the stars or like wake up to the stars or wake up to the sun and not have to kind of fumble around to see where my glasses are. So I'm looking forward to that eventually. It's like getting out and enjoying nature with sort of no barrier. Oh, the staff were really great. Yeah, it was really always felt pretty taken care of and very friendly staff, and they were answering my questions even if they were like really, really trivial. It's something that you gotta have like sort of a bit of trust in this doctor.
Weiss Eye Center is the only clinic to offer blade-free Z LASIK in the Northland. To find out more and to arrange your free consultation, call 218-625-1917 today. Or visit weisseyecenter.com for more information. Weiss Eye Center. See the best.
News Talk KDAL. Now back to Stars Over the Prairie with Paul Metsa.
And later that night when the ship's bell rang, could it be the north wind they'd been feeling?
You are back with Stars Over the Prairie. This is your host, Paul Metsa. My guest, author and politician, the mayor of the county, Thomas Nelson, who's written a great book called Wrecked, the Edmund Fitzgerald and the Sinking of the American Economy. Now, Tom, where did you go to school, and what did you study?
Well, I graduated from Little Chute High School here in Outagamie County. I went to college also in Minnesota, Carleton College, which, of course, is down the road in Northfield. Did some graduate work at Princeton, and I've been representing the good people of Outagamie County in parts of northeast Wisconsin for the last 20 years.
Wow. Fantastic. When did the book come out? When did Rex come out?
The book came out August 1st. So it's been out now for a week.
Wow. And
been getting a great response. Obviously, there is a pretty wide group of people that are interested in this, and that's certainly no exception with this book. And, you know, for the first time in 49 years, I'm bringing fresh interviews. One of the major parts of the book is I've interviewed 3 of the attorneys who represented 5 families, and they, for the first time, are telling their story. So after the sinking, the legal drama itself was a whole nother story. And 50 years later, many of these families have not gotten justice because the truth has not come out. The company, people that were responsible for it, have not taken responsibility and made good on those families. And so I address that issue pretty extensively. There's, that in itself is a big reason to write the book. And I think that people will be very interested in that, not just because it's relevant to this, but simply it has not been told before. And 50 years later, I think people are interested to know more about this. And the fact that these things have not been told, I think, will be very compelling.
You know, I had a really amazing experience. Gordon Lightfoot was maybe my first big influence as a young folk singer. He was really my Bob Dylan before Bob Dylan. And my sister brought home his first record called Lightfoot when I was about 12 years old, and I just fell in love with that record and that man. And in 1997, he had played in Duluth several times over the years, but he'd never played in Superior, Wisconsin, where the Edmund Fitzgerald went out of. It was being promoted by my friend Tracy Lundeen, who actually has a morning show here on KDAL, and helped me actually get this my radio show on KDAL. Thanks, Tracy Lundeen. And I called him up and I said, "Do you need an opening act?" He goes, "We'd love to have you." And so I got to the show. It was at Connors Point. It was at towards the kind of the end of August, so that it was starting to cool down a little bit, as it does here in the Twin Boards. And it was just a great afternoon. I was setting up, and this guy helped me set up my equipment, and I thought he was part of the crew. And I said, "Geez, so nice." I said, "Are you part of the song crew?" He says, "No, my name's Barry. I'm Gordon's manager." And I thought, how nice is that? How, Chris, you're in the biz. That doesn't happen that often.
Not very often, no.
And so I did my 5 songs. And when Gordon came on, the lights of Duluth were coming up. It was a gorgeous evening. And just as he hit those first chords of the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, there was this huge foghorn from like a ghost ship. And, I mean, everybody heard it. And
that's his door.
And
my volunteer walked out. I'm still here. Keep going.
Okay. And anyway, so he hit the chorus. Now, there was a lot of people, of course, that knew that this was a special show, being in Superior. And a lot of family members from crew members that went down were there, and people involved with it. And so he did this just amazing rendition of the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, starting with his foghorn. And when he got done, I am not kidding you, there was 29 seagulls that came and swooped over the stage and off into the distance, almost as like representing the 29 sailors that went down.
Wow.
And I've talked to several people that were at that show, and they felt it and heard it and saw it, and it was amazing. So this part of the story of from the book with Thomas Nelson, who we're speaking to, Wrecked, the Edmund Fitzgerald and the Sinking of the American Economy, is means a lot to me. Now, when did you become interested in the fascination with the Edmund Fitzgerald, and then when you dug deeper, found out about all the safety issues and more, Tom?
Well, my interest, as I mentioned before, goes way back. I was like 7 or 8 years old, and that was the time that I went to Sault Ste. Marie, went to the Valicante Museum, and saw everything. It was just kind of transfixed. And I think that there's a lot of people that are attracted to this. It's kind of, it's not easy to describe, but there's just something about it. I think one of the reasons why is that the 29 crew members, these are people that a lot of folks can relate with, right? That they worked on a ship just like people work on, even here with like paper mills, worked on a farm. These were hardworking people. And in my book, show that they were let down by this company. And so I learned more about this. I began to dig deeper. And the stories that came out, the stories from these attorneys and how Ogilvy Norton and Northwestern Mutual, to some extent, was simply not responding to these widows and families of the fallen crew members. So not only did they have to go through this horrific tragedy, but in my estimation, they were completely disrespected. The personal human side to this is what makes it so compelling. And overall, what has been so frustrating about this is after 50 years, the names, the memories of the fallen, there has not been justice, and the story has not been told, and that is the big reason why I published this book.
Tom, did you get into being able to speak with a lot of the family members of the sailors?
Yes, I spoke with 5 family members, 2 of the attorneys. Three attorneys. I spoke with Tom Farnquist, who led the dive in 1995 to recover the Belle, and that story has not been told, at all, and that's included in the book. And this is, those things taken together, I think, make this a very strong story. And just listening to these, and not just talking on the phone though, but I went to visit these members, knocking on doors. I went to a township outside of Iron River in Wisconsin, and I met with Fred Arbogast, who is the younger brother of Michael Arbogast. And here was someone who lived. He lived in this cabin, and I just knocked on the door. He came out, and what I saw was someone who lived a long life, but a very hard life. That life was not easy. He went on and told me about the jobs that he held and how he went from job to job. And it was clear that in the background of all this was the grief that he was suffering. Sure. What really surprised me is the first time I asked him, I said, first of all, thank you for taking time to talk about this. You must get these calls all the time. He said no. I was the first one after 48 years.
Wow.
I went up to him to ask him about his story.
That must, there's got to be a certain satisfaction for you, Thomas Nelson, as an author to tell those stories, especially something like that, for someone who's never contacted. Besides all the details, the legal details and more of the fits, but actually up close and personal, I guess, as it were. That's got to have a certain amount of satisfaction, be able to tell those stories.
I think it's a combination. How I feel about that is not just a satisfaction, though, but it's disappointing also that someone before me hasn't made the effort. It wasn't that hard. I looked it up on whitepages.com, found Fred's address, went to knock on doors, tracked him down, asked him a couple questions. I did that in an hour and a half, 48 years. That never happened before. I spoke with the son of Red O'Brien. His name is John O'Brien, lives down in Fort Lauderdale, who is a very successful businessman. He's got a compelling story, too. He told me that what his father left with him, his his inheritance after he had passed away, after he went down with the Fitzgerald, he took his father's inheritance and he started a business. And he owns 12 businesses in Florida right now, is just fantastically successful.
Wow.
So you get these stories. You got, on one hand, you get a story about Fred Armagast in Iron River, Wisconsin, who has taken a lot of hits on the chin. And for whatever reason, people have not been, concerned, and people have not taken serious his story, haven't even bothered to ask or listen to it. And then you have John O'Brien, who has been, very successful. He was happy to talk about. So even though there are quite a few Fitzgerald members who are, as they should be, very protective of the legacy, there are several who want to tell their story. And I took it upon myself, do what I can to give voice to their life and their life experiences.
You know what? I'm finding this all very fascinating. We've got a little more time left, Tom Nelson. Tell us one more story about a family that, or a person you spoke with that is included in your book, Wreck the Edmund Fitzgerald and the Sinking of the American Economy.
One of the central figures in my book is a fellow by the name of Red Bergner, and he was the only crew member of the Fitzgerald that did not sail in November. And there was a deposition that he participated in several years later, for which both Ogilvy Norton and Northwestern's attorneys were present. He basically spilled the beans. And so in a federal deposition, he made very clear what had happened. His story has not been told either. And the way that the attorneys of the families, they had to convince him to come up from his home in Texas. And according to one of the law firm investigators, that they had to spirit him up around the back roads between Texas and St. Paul because he was convinced. He feared for his life.
Wow.
Because he was going to talk about what condition the Fitz was actually in, that there would be severe consequences coming from the companies. True story. And this isn't just someone said this, who said that. No, I mean, this was memorialized in a federal deposition 45 years ago that has yet to see the light of day.
Man, this sounds just like a fascinating book. How long did it take you to write Wreck, Thomas Nelson?
4 months.
Wow. Well,
it was a labor of love. I got all my research done. I went through, wrote it. It was just something where you find your passion, something that you really believe in, and it is a lot of work. It took a lot of time, though, but it kind of just wrote itself. It was that strong and compelling of a story. I know. I've written a few books
for my autobiography when I got enough money so I didn't have to play for a handful of months. And my routine was I'd wake up at 9, walk the dog, put the coffee on, and I'd go till 5. And then during the week, I'd put some more coffee on and take a nap and get at it about 7 to midnight. And then Wednesday through Saturday, because I was writing the life story of a crazy musician, I'd occasionally crack into either the Merlot or the vodka and have martinis to get a little swing with my
lubricant there. Huh?
Well, that's what they say. Alcohol is the writer's lubricant. So tell us again, Tom Nelson, when are you? Tell us the address and the place. In fact, I've been hearing great things about this bookstore in Superior. So the time and the address tomorrow.
Foxes and Fireflies. It's on Tower Avenue in Superior. I'll be there from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. for any listeners. A little more south than that, I'll be in Spooner, Wisconsin the following day at 6:30 at Northwind Book and Fiber. So that is Monday at 6:30, and then my time in Superior at Foxes and Fireflies in downtown Superior will be tomorrow, Sunday, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Now, Tom, is there I know the book's on Amazon, but I always suggest buy it from a bookstore, and especially if the author's there so he can sign it. Is there a website where people can find out more about the book?
Sure. Go to foxesandfirefliesbookstore.com, and on that you'll be able to order the book, or you can wait a day and buy a book tomorrow and visit me and meet me and get the book signed if that matters. Of course, Amazon is probably the easiest. That's just how the world works today, sure. Unfortunately. Or you can go to the Michigan State University Press website, and you can order a book that way. And a big thank you to Michigan State University Press for their confidence, their faith in this project, and bringing it to fruition.
Now, Tom, have you written any other books?
Yes, I have. I am actually just finishing a book on, and you will love this. You will absolutely love this. The Green Bay Packers. Everyone listening to this is going to like it. So I've got a contract with Triumph Publishing that's coming out in about a year, but one that's already out in print is called One Day Stronger, How One Union Local Saved a Mill and Changed an Industry. And that's the story of my work about 8 years ago, working for a local paper mill union that was shut down. It was bought by an out-of-state scrap dealer. We sued them. We went to court, gave a compelling reason why the mill should still run, and we prevailed on the judge to reopen the mill and saved about 300 jobs. So, quite part of that, it was one of the milestones, capstones for my public service. Wrote a book about it, and that got some traction. But that was, of course, several years ago. So I learned from that promotion, and I'm going to learn those lessons and do what I can to get the word out on the Fitzgerald book, because it is a story that's worthwhile, to tell, and it hasn't.
Well, you sound like a fascinating guy. I want to shout out to our mutual friend who turned us on to each other, Dr. Kristen Lyerly, who I'm predicting will be the next governor of Wisconsin. If she's out there listening, keep going, Kristen. You're doing great work, and you've got really cool friends like me and Tom. Tom, I'm running over. I'm going to see you tomorrow. I want to catch your reading, and I look forward to meeting you. Keep up the great work. Thanks for your time, and we got to cut to break, and after this we're going to be talking to country legend Sherwin Linton. But Tom Nelson, thanks for your time. Have a beautiful day.
Great to be on. See you tomorrow.
Okay, man.
I'm Zach, and I had Z LASIK at Weiss Eye Center. I was sick of wearing glasses. I've had glasses since third grade. Dealing with the nuisance of glasses kind of reached that point of I just need to get LASIK. I was a little nervous, but knowing now what that process all entailed, I wouldn't have been nervous if I knew. Everybody's really nice here. Not a bad thing to say about anybody. Everybody's happy, and everybody here's nice. And I mean, it's day one post-op, and I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Weiss Eye Center is the only clinic to offer blade-free Z LASIK in the Northland. To find out more and to arrange your free consultation, call 218-625-1917 today or visit weisseyecenter.com for more information. Weiss Eye Center. See the best.
Rocky Wall Entertainment is thrilled to announce 6 exclusive Rocky Wall benefit house concerts featuring nationally renowned musicians in a one-of-a-kind, intimate North Country log lodge setting. We will have 6 shows this summer, and the bands generously donate their time and talent to perform these house concerts to help Rocky Wall Entertainment raise funds to fund the free Music in the Park concert series. More information and tickets available at rockywallentertainment.org/events/house concerts.
You're listening to Stars Over the Prairie with Paul Metsa. The phone lines are open. 218-722-0839.
All right, that rich, deep country baritone we're listening to on the hit song Cotton King is my guest, Mr. Sherwin Linton, a very good friend of mine. Sherwin, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right. Now, where are you playing this afternoon?
We're playing at the Stearns County Fair in Sauk Center.
Wow. Well, you are going to be playing up at August 22nd, up as part of the Music in the Park series in Silver Bay. And you've got your, how big of the band are you bringing up to Silver Bay? You bringing up your 5-piece?
5-piece band, yes, and including my wife, Pam.
All right, and my buddy who I introduced you to, Kenny Wilson on pedal steel, guitar, and banjo, correct?
Yes, Kenny is actually. I can see Kenny from here. He's on stage wiring as we he was Silver Bay.
Very cool. Well, we love Kenny. We played dozens of gigs together, and he recorded with me when I did my record in '94 at the Guthrie Theater. Just a phenomenal phenomenal multi-instrumentalist. So, tell us, are we going to speak to Pam or Sherwin? Who we got on the horn?
Do you want to speak? Do you want to talk, Sherwin, or do you want me to talk?
Why don't you?
I'll have Pam talk, and then she will. I don't hear as well, so she will address some of the questions with me.
That sounds great, Sherwin. I know my hearing's not what it used to be either. So, Pam, tell us a little bit about your husband, Sherwin Linton. People don't believe when I say he's done 14,000 gigs, which is you can add all the Grateful Dead shows up, which is about 3,500. All the Rolling Stones shows up, which is about 3,500. And you would only get half of as many shows as Sherwin Linton's played in his career.
Sherwin just turned a very active 86 years old.
Wow.
He has been touring the Midwest and the United States
since 1956.
Since 1956. When I came to work for Sherwin 45 years ago, we were playing 300 days a year.
Wow.
Pre-2020, we were playing about 225 days a year. And right now, we're doing about 150 to 175 days a year.
That is a lot of days a year at 86 years old.
It is, but this is what keeps Sherwin fueled. I mean, this is what he loves. Yesterday, we just picked up his 1959 Jazzmaster.
Wow.
From Willie's American Guitars in St. Paul. Sherwin, for years and years, he has multiples of these guitars, but for years and years would take them apart himself and do all kinds of work on them. And what happened is we actually went and saw our friend Steve over at Willie's, and we took him a vintage guitar case full of parts and a cardboard box full of parts, and he reassembled that 1959 Jazzmaster, purchased at Schmidt Music in Minneapolis. It was the first Jazzmaster ever sold in Minneapolis.
Wow.
And on that Jazzmaster, I invented the B-bender.
Tell people about that.
It stretches the B string one full pitch. Sherwin was doing a show with Carl Perkins, and Carl was doing Flint Hill Special, and he was bending the B string behind the nut. And Sherwin just told him he was actually bloodying his finger when he was doing this. And Sherwin told him, Carl, if you had some kind of a lever or something that could bend that string, then that'd be a lot easier, it'd be a lot cooler. And so the next night, Carl came in, and he had wired a makeshift piece of coat hanger, and it just by chance bent it to the right pitch.
Wow.
So that inspired Sherwin to go home and take his kid's crib apart in the middle of the night, and he got the little metal rods from underneath the support for the mattress in the baby crib, and headed down to the basement with his hacksaw and whatever tools he had, which I think were kind of minimal, stayed up all night and worked into the next day and developed this bender that you activated with your thumb. It's a rod that runs across the top of the neck, and then you activate it with your thumb, and it would bend the B string a full pitch. So later on, Sherwin had a machinist perfect that. And you were doing a show. Tell us who you were doing the show with, Sherwin.
I was doing a show, and Marty Stewart saw that, and so he was pretty fascinated with it, and he developed...
no, not Marty Stewart.
Clarence, wasn't it? Clarence White. Yeah. Who was playing with the Kentucky Colonels with his brother Roland, and then eventually ended up playing with the Byrds. But keep going. Great story.
And so they're playing a show up in North Dakota, and Clarence sees this. And so he got with Gene Parsons, and they developed the bender that actually fits between the Telecaster guitar bodies. And Marty Stewart right now plays that first guitar
Wow.
that Clarence and Roland developed that first bender in. And so that is Marty Stewart's best friend. So Sherwin called his guitar Old Reliable because it's been with him forever and ever. And he has, like I said, right now he has 3 that are all outfitted for stage. But when you have to have 3 when you play 300 shows a year.
Yeah, right. Well, you wear them out. Well, I call Sherwin Linton Old Reliable because he's been one of my most reliable friends since I met him. I got to tell the radio audience out there, I was heard the name Sherwin Linton for years. I mean, you drive around town and you see Sherwin Linton's playing here, Sherwin's playing there. You'd pick up the newspaper, Sherwin Linton's playing here, Sherwin's playing there. And it turns out I was doing a gig. I was doing Tuesday nights at Bunker's Bar in downtown Minneapolis, and I had a fellow named Steve on the bass guitar. And Steve played with Sherwin. Well, the thing about musicians, Chris, you know this, if you're playing a lot, you never get a chance to see the other musicians that are playing as a lot. So Steve Murray was playing with Sherwin. So I said, why don't you invite Sherwin down on a Tuesday? He's probably not working, early in the week. Sherwin came in. I'll never forget. It was about 2001. He got on stage and he played good rock in a night. And I said, man, this guy is the real deal. And we've been friends ever since. And then I told him, I said, Sherwin, there's a whole new sense. Rick Rubin did this, the Johnny Cash records. There's this whole new younger generation of Johnny Cash fans and a lot of them are hanging out Northeast at Mazelax. So we hooked up Sherwin and to do some gigs at Mazelax, and man, he picked up a whole new generation of fans, and I was so happy for that.
Well, and Paul, that was your vision. That was your vision, for bringing Sherwin to the youth, because there's so much of today's contemporary music that is literally kind of pushed down the throats of youth, and there's a whole element of the population that's looking for what's real. And Sherwin is real. When he tells you the story, it's not something he made up. It's a real experience. It's what he did. It's where life has taken him. And he's just thankful every day that he's been able to surround himself with great friends like you and awesome musicians, and that he's able to keep singing and playing.
Well, I've got to ask him one more story, because Sherwin was one of the first guys, not maybe only in Minnesota, but around the country, that recorded a Bob Dylan song. I believe it was Girl from the North Country, but I might be wrong. But
no, that's right. I recorded Girl from the North Country in 1964 and then again in 65.
Yeah, I mean, who was recording Bob Dylan music in 64, covering it? Very few people besides Peter, Paul, and Mary. Well, my guest, Sherwin Linton, did. Sherwin, we've just got a few minutes left, but you actually saw Bob Dylan at the 10 o'clock Scholar. Tell us about seeing a young Bob Dylan live when he was just coming from Hibbing on his way to New York City while he was in Dinkytown.
Yeah, in fact, he sang in there, but he was not the most popular guest there, because that was a folk music place, and most folk singers back then had pretty voices, and they would get him up. Okay, we'll get Bob up here to do, and he would do a couple. And actually, I remember him not doing original songs. He sang Wabash Cannonball and The Great Speckled Bird and Wreck on the Highway. He was obviously a big Roy Acuff fan.
Right.
So that's how I knew him. They just knew him as Bob. And then a couple of years later, I was up in Minot, North Dakota, and I saw his picture on an album. And I thought, how in the heck did he ever get on Columbia? Well, he went to New York City and started writing songs.
Well, that's just phenomenal. And we got time. Could you tell us a really short story about Roy Acuff and the Paisley underwear?
Could you tell the Roy Acuff Paisley underwear story quickly?
Oh, yeah. We we did some shows somewhere where we were doing a show with Roy Acuff was the star. I think it was Little Falls, Minnesota. We were in the dressing room, and my bass player had been to Kiefer's, which was a high fashion place where musicians and people would buy their clothes back in the 60s. And my bass player had bought some Paisley fancy underwear, and Roy Acuff looked out over at him as he was changing clothes, and he said to Dell, he said, "Is them men's underwear?" yeah, they are. Really, men's underwear. Because they didn't look like typical DVDs.
And then did he say, I'm gonna have to get me a pair of those?
Yeah. He said, I'll have to give me a pair of those. I'm sure he never did. His wife was Mildred. She wouldn't have approved of that.
Say this, what we really enjoyed speaking with Sherwin and Pam Linton. They're playing up with the Cotton Kings up on August 22nd in Silver Bay, the Music in the Park series that Nelson French has done such a great job at curating. Well, you guys have a great gig today. Say hi to Kenny Wilson.
I got one more story.
No, we've got to run.
Okay.
But we'll have you on again, Sherwin. So thank you so much, and have a great afternoon. And maybe we'll get to see you on August 22nd up in Silver Bay.
I sure hope so. Thank you so much, Paul, for giving us this time and working in our schedule. We appreciate it very much.
All right. Have a great gig, guys.
Thank you for all the good years.
Oh, we got more left, Sherwin. That was my buddy Sherwin Linton. It's so much fun to always reconnect with him. He's just really a character. You've got to check him out. Hey, the big weekend next week in Cats and the Stars, 50th anniversary at Moe's in Mounds View, 4 to 7 on Sunday afternoon. Front porch swinging, liquor pigs are opening up. I'm playing every Friday night from 5:30 to 7:30 at Carmony's Irish Pub with the Tiltown Titanettes, and we're doing a little gig in Proctor on Thursday from about 5 o'clock to 7 right by City Hall as part of Hogheads Days. You can find out more about me, get my records and books via paulmetsa.com. We're on Stars of the Prairie every Saturday from 11 to noon on KDAL. And like my dad used to tell me, remember to be kind and make someone happy.
And I wish I could see stars over the prairie, stars over